fact that it is August 24th, 2022, and that we are in the Oakland studio of Elizabeth Sher here. And the first things that I think you're going to talk about are works on paper that you do and some of the materials and process that you use in this work.
Yes. So I started a series during lockdown of words that were running through my head. And I started doing them mostly on handmade paper. And I'll show some of them. So things like this. And the words, sometimes this says then, when, then. And and then the blobs were a part of it, and making a design out of letting the words become the image and the design. So how I do them is
Excuse me, before you even get to process, I'm going to ask you some questions about your paper, because I noticed that this paper right here, if I may take it out, is in fact a whiter paper than this that you're working on now. So could you just say where the paper is sourced and the nature of the paper, and whether or not there's any sizing or...
Right, okay. So I got most of my paper from Don Farnsworth Magnolia Editions, and it's all different paper. So there's different colors, there's different absorbencies, some bleed through, some don't. And I don't size them, I just let them do what they do with India ink and a bamboo pen. What I'm going to show you is on BFK, because I don't have any more of the handmade paper. But I didn't, most of them are done on handmade paper, but just to show how I do it.
Okay, and the inks, I see these ones are new. Do you use the same brand?
No, not
or
all
do you use
the time.
different brands?
Different brands, I do. I use different brands. I have this kind of India ink, and but mostly it's Windsor.
And what about, I see that they're different colors, so what about fugitive nature of certain colors in your inks?
I just don't worry about it. I just let it do what it does.
Okay.
Yeah, some colors are more fugitive than others, of course.
Well, I see red there, so that's why I'm asking
Red.
right away.
I know. So this is the brightest, most fugitive, the red. This is Indian red. So I use that, and sepia and blue and green. Yeah. So, I'm not going to put them out in the sun.
No, but you might have a collector who hasn't been forewarned and has light exposure to the west here in California coming in.
Absolutely. I have someone who owns one of my paintings, and I told them not to hang it in the sun, and all of the alizarin is gone. Acrylic. So I warned them, and they're like, we like it. Okay. So I measure off, give me a hint about where the lines are. So this will be 1.5 inches, just as a guide, and then I can erase that later. And so then I have kind of like a little guide, and then I get my ink out, and I'm going to just start writing. And I just let it happen. I don't try to make it. Part of the interest for me is just the shapes that they make. And what happens. Some of the paper's really harder to draw on. Like here's a piece of another kind of paper, of the handmade kind. And it makes a completely different kind of mark. And more rough. So sometimes I have to go back over it.
I have a question concerning conservation and light fastness. So do you let anyone who acquires work done with these inks know that you have no qualms about color restitution? I'm thinking now of for instance, when Wright went to Japan and bought old Japanese prints and then went in and colored and intensified color and totally ruined them all because he thought that they would be brighter and more attractive that way. So do you have a directive? Have you expressed this, that it's okay for the work and the colors to be fugitive and not to try and make any attempts at restoration of color?
No one's ever asked me that. I wouldn't restore them.
That's why we're doing this video. Good. Okay. Just so that it's clear and everyone knows that that's the artist's intention.
Yeah. I mean,
Good.
I would tell people with any work not to put it in direct sun, but some people don't care. So that's kind of how it looks.
Yeah.
And then kind of a finished one that's similar to this would be this. But this is just an example. I wouldn't do it on this paper. This is boring paper. Part of it is the paper. So they look really different depending.
And do you know whether these handmade papers are all cotton or whether there are other materials that Don has?
You know, I have no
Put
idea.
in?
I just took all his samples.
Okay.
But I know they're all handmade by him.
So
by-
Magnolia is the place to direct questions about the papers.
That's right.
Good.
That's right. I don't even know if he would know. They were just little scraps that he was, selling.
Mm.
So some of the paper's dark, like that.
And it looks like it has a lot of mixed fibers in there.
Yeah, a lot of them have fibers, which I like
Yeah.
a lot. Here's another one with different fibers, and here's a gray one. And here's a white one, like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he could know. Knowing Don, I think he probably has notes about what he was doing at different points in time.
I'm
in terms of
sure.
the papers.
I'm sure. So these were like a bunch of leftovers that he was selling,
Mhm.
and I figured he's pretty trustworthy.
Of course.
So I felt confident that he, would do that. So that's this work, and it's all going to be in an upcoming show. And here's a bigger one on another piece of his handmade paper with different colors.
So they're also they have that beautiful decal edge from the handmade paper.
Yeah.
Beautiful.